Dino steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Strap yourself in and get ready.
And here we go, here we go!
The leaders in fantasy football are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now listening to the Insight NFL Show with your hosts, Guns and Maverick.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go!
Let's go! Go!
G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the Insight NFL Show. We've got a newbie here tonight, Youngmullin. You might know him around the Insight Leagues as Youngmullin. He's got a Gillo League. He's been in our Moulton League, our little home league, Moulton League, and won that. So pretty good competition in that league, and shit competition too, if you want to include me. And also is the longest drafter I've ever seen on an 8-hour clock. Mullen, how you going, mate?
Hey, going great. And it must be newbie fever because as you were going through that intro, I lost all sound, all audio. So I just had to switch that over. So it looks like everything is all going as it should. But in terms of longest drafter, just trying to get max value. You know, those drafts are priceless. That's one of the best times of fantasy season. So, you know, got to take advantage of it when you can. That's for sure.
I've heard a rumor going around that when we're on the draft clock and there's an 8-hour timer, that you actually send 11 trades to 11 different people and just hope that someone goes, fuck, Melon's on the clock. I'm just going to accept it so I can draft. Get him off the clock. Is that true?
That is true. I do send a lot of trades on the clock. You know, I love to wheel and deal as much as I can. And, you know, sometimes you can pull away a sneaky win that just sets you up for the rest of the draft. But no, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know Herbie in our Moulton League got stuck into a fair bit. You probably copped it the most. And, mate, Herbie doesn't like a lot of people. But unfortunately, you're on his hit list. So unlucky there, mate. But you can join the crew. I'm on his hit list too. So,
yeah, and we both sleep great at night, I bet. So, you know.
Yeah, but he finishes on the bottom. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, for sure.
Mate, week 11's in the books. It was an interesting week to say the least. I don't know, like a lot of inconsistency I thought in the week happened. There were some games that I looked at, like Eagles Commanders, which we're getting to shortly, which I thought was going to be an absolute perler, which turned out to be a little bit disappointing for me. But all in all, mate, like, you know, Taysom Hill's our cover photo for today. He went bonkers, which we'll get into a bit later as well. Was there anything that you liked? I know you're a Bills fan, mate. What did you think about the Bills beating the Chiefs early on?
Thank you for letting that into me for me, Matt. Because yeah, go Bills, baby. You know, got to rep it. Got that Allen on. Just want to shout out all those Chiefs fans. You know, I hope you guys are crying yourself to sleep tonight because I'll be sound asleep like a little baby. That was awesome. Josh Allen just doing it all. MVP case. Yeah, definitely a great week when the Chiefs handed their first loss. Definitely.
It's one of those things where you go, oh, we finally beat them. Like, can we do it in the playoffs? Like, you know, it's only week 11. You know, they're now 10-1 or 9-1, whatever they are. First loss. But do you feel as a Bills fan that you might be able to get them in the postseason this time?
Oh, you know, that's always the dream. But, you know, the Chiefs, they're just a different beast when it comes to postseason. And I kind of feel like during regular season, Chiefs are just kind of, you know, they're just training with their guys. They just kind of limit testing. You know, you see they involve some of the Worthy a little bit more this week. You know, I think they're just kind of testing the waters, kind of playing a little bit of cat and mouse. But, yeah, no, hopefully, fingers crossed, come crunch time, we can get the job done. Definitely.
Yeah, agreed, mate. Agreed. Well, let's get straight into it, mate. Let's start with the first game, which was on Friday. It was the Commanders and the Eagles, where the Eagles won 26-18. First takeaway for me, mate, was AJ Brown and Smith were a little bit underwhelming. You know, the cornerbacks that I know they've got Marshawn Lattimore in the house, but I don't know, like the Commanders defense for me, it doesn't look too intimidating. I've always thought that, you know, teams will score well against them. But yeah, I thought AJ Brown and Devontae were pretty underwhelming for the most part, mate.
Yeah, I think the addition of Dan Quinn, I think it's definitely underrated in terms of that defensive kind of structure, how it looks now. And, with it being a division matchup, maybe they just study a little bit extra hard to lock down those two guys because, yeah, they just could not get it going at all, which is, yeah,
Yeah,
right, very sad for our fantasy teams.
yeah, and it felt like it was just all the running backs were getting involved. It was Brian Robinson, it was Jaden Daniels, obviously seeing 7 carries, which is usually normal for him, but only 18 yards on the ground. Austin Eckler had 8 catches, and it just looked like it filtered all through the running game, or the running backs, should I say. And none of the receivers at all really got anything going at all. Like Scary Terry, who's been on an absolute tear for the last 7 weeks, saw 1 catch, and that was late in the game, might I add. And then, outside of that, there was no one else really involved apart from that one receiving touchdown from Zach Ertz. And I thought that was pretty underwhelming for the most part for Jaden Daniels and Scary Terry, especially, who had that special connection. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you think for the most part, hopefully it's just a one down week. I know the Commanders are facing the Eagles again in playoffs. I think it's week 16. So hopefully that fireworks are going off a bit more in that week, and it's not such a snooze fest for the fans. But definitely, hopefully Terry, hopefully he bounces back next week. Not too sure on who they're playing, but definitely.
But especially with these Eagles cornerbacks too, like they're looking like true lockdowns now. Like it's crazy. A year ago, you'd see the Eagles cornerbacks and you're like, they're fucking nothing. Like these guys get scored upon left, right, and center. But now they've turned into genuine lockdowns, and taken just souls out of everyone's fantasy teams. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, for sure. I remember last fantasy season whenever you saw opposing teams against the Eagles corners, you were licking your lips. You were thinking, excellent, this is a smash spot. But those rookie additions that they've got in Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, they're taking over. They're just covering everyone. So definitely steer clear of the Eagles for your wideout matchups.
Yeah, I know we mentioned AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but Saquon Barkley, I know he just keeps on tearing apart teams. 26 carries for 146 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. I know the Giants are still crying about losing him, but they'd be crying even more even in an in-division matchup. Like seriously, this guy is making a real case for the offensive player of the year.
Oh, definitely. He's just been killing it. Another 2 touchdown performance. It's great to see him out of the Giants because, you look at the numbers he was putting up there and compared to what he's doing now at the Eagles, it's phenomenal. Great to see for Saquon, unlucky for Giants fans. Absolutely.
Yeah, and especially like in drafts as well. I mean, Saquon Barkley was going in like late first, early second rounds in most leagues. And he's like a top 2, top 3 RB in the league, probably behind Derrick Henry, and probably A-Chain or maybe just above A-Chain, obviously because of that shit start that he had. But yeah, it's crazy. Like this guy would be a genuine league winner if you picked him up in the second round because obviously you'd get a good player in the first round to come back. So, mate, genuine league winner at the moment, Saquon.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely up there with CMC in terms of that kind of level of output that he produces in fantasy. And yeah, it's going to be good to see what he can do down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Outside of that, there was nothing really there that I loved about this game outside of what we just mentioned or what we didn't like. But I think for me, mate, Scary Terry was probably the biggest bust for the week for me. And just a one-off week, we reckon. So I agree with you, mate.
Hopefully, yeah, for sure. And also for Jaden Daniels, maybe with that rookie quarterback, the Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, maybe he just threw everything at him. Through the kitchen sink, he didn't know what to do. Maybe just needs a bit more time, and we'll see it with the years progress. With this being a divisional matchup, so yeah, fingers crossed that he can get back on track.
Yeah, agreed, mate. Now let's move on to the next game of the week, which was actually one of the first early morning slate games, should I say, which was the Packers and the Bears, another in-division matchup here, where, I mean, let's be honest, the Packers went in 2019, but in Bears fashion, getting blocked on a field goal to win, they just find ways to lose the game. Bears fans keep crying. They can't beat the Packers. Matt LaFleur's actually got 11-0 against them now, I think it was.
Undefeated. Yeah.
Incredible. But all in all, mate, I thought on the Bears, we'll start with the Bears. The new OC was in the house. We saw sort of a different playbook to a degree. But, I want to see weapons involved when I see this Bears offense, because the Bears offense on paper is really good. When you got Caleb Williams, who's a number one pick, you got Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. Like, on paper, that's a really, really good team.
Absolutely.
And I was excited to see DJ Moore have 7 for 62 this week. I thought that was a good bounce back, considering he's had like 2 or 3 catches the last few weeks. So what do you think about DJ Moore for the rest of the season? Do you think it's going to be an upward trend, or?
You'd hope so, but honestly, I don't want anything to do with this Bears offense. I think with the new offensive coordinator, they kind of have a bit of an uptick that next week. You kind of see that with the head, when the head coach is fired and someone's new brought in the next week, the team kind of performs a bit better. But I'm just kind of steering clear until they get this situation sorted. I think there's something going on in house. Matt Eberflus, I think he's probably on the chopping block. Yeah. I think Caleb, he probably needs a bit more coaching and mentoring around him to just fully unlock what he's doing. But it was good to see DJ Moore. Yeah, Rome Odunze, 6 for 65. Keenan Allen, he's just 441, not too bad, but I think he's just getting a bit too old.
I'm a bit of a glass half full when I see this offense. I think it's going to get better. I thought the play calling was a bit shit.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm a glass half full. Yeah. I'm a glass half full sort of guy. So I'm looking at this offense and going, well, the rest of the season schedule isn't too bad. So I think they've got something to build. Caleb Williams was okay, moving around the pocket still. The offensive line's still crap. We get that.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think this is going to be an upward trend. I think this has to get better. There's too much talent there for it to get worse. So I'm a glass half full sort of guy when it comes to the Bears offense.
And you'd hope. And with rookie Rome Odunze, those rookie wide receivers, they kind of get a bit of a late season bump. They get a bit more acquitted to the NFL. They kind of, get more adjusted to the pace of the game. Hopefully he gets a bit more involved. And look, I hope for your sake, I hope they can turn it around, because it's always good to see these teams flying, especially for our matchups. But I don't know. I think Matt Eberflus, I think he's got to go. I think they've got to get someone else in there. Maybe Ben Johnson next year from the Lions, if he's happy to go to the Bears and they offer it to him. But yeah,
mate, I agree. Matt Eberflus is on some real thin ice. He's if they lose a few more games, he might be gone early. But end of the season, he's not surviving. So he's as good as gone, mate. Any concern at all? I'm just going to mention the running back situation here at the Bears. DeAndre Swift, 14 carries. Roschon Johnson, 10. Do we think at all that Roschon Johnson might see more carries as the season goes along? Or do you think that Roschon's primarily just goal line back work?
I think primarily he's just a goal line back. We've seen Swift. He's just been phenomenal this year so far. And, he 14 for 71 on the ground. He had that big breakaway run and that touchdown. I think, they've got to just put the ball in the hands of their talent makers and playmakers rather. I think Roschon, he's just going to be at the goal line, just taking the shots to start falling over into the end zone.
I can't disagree, mate. That's probably what I'd say as well. On the Packers side of things, where do you start with the Packers, huh? The offenses are so inconsistent with terms of who's going to be getting the fantasy points week to week. 1 week it's going to be Jaden Reed. Next week's going to be Christian Watson. Next week's going to be Tucker Kraft. Week after that's going to be Romeo Dobbs. And this was another week where you just go, what the hell do I do with this offense? Now, coming into this game, I thought Tucker Kraft would actually be a really, really good play, because the Bears can't really defend tight ends that well. He had 0 for 0, mate. Didn't have a target.
Absolute goose.
It's a massive goose egg. Came into the week as a tight end 6 as well. I know tight ends are pretty tough and they're all up and down, but tight end 6 and have 0 targets. That's shit. And then you have Christian Watson 4 for 150 and didn't have a score. Like, good game, but no score.
Yeah, definitely. And, some of those grabs from Watson, that's just kind of the athlete that he is. And it's good to see him, not being injured and on the sidelines and making those plays. But yeah, you're right. Very inconsistent. Yeah, scratching your head, each week, week in, week out. It is a tough matchup for wideouts against Chicago Bears, just to add in. So it was good to see, Josh Jacobs, kind of getting a bit more work done and being better for the fantasy outlook. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough sledding. I know the Packers, they do have a good schedule the rest of the season. So hopefully too, Jordan Love a little bit further away from that injury that he sustained at the start of the year. So hopefully he can, keep kind of ticking along and they can start to go off.
Outside of Josh Jacobs, who would you think is the best wideout there at the Packers? If you had to pick one for the rest of the season, who would you pick as the most, well, consistent's probably not the right word, but who would you pick as the number one?
I love Jaden Reed. Personally, I'm a very big Jaden Reed fan. I think, Matt LaFleur, he's kind of using him as a Deebo Samuel like player, as he's from that Shanahan tree. And I just think he can do it all, very explosive. I think they've played the Vikings in one of the playoff matches, and he went ballistic against the Vikings last time. So I'd be definitely targeting that matchup. But for me, Jaden Reed, I think Romeo Dubs, who knows with Romeo Dubs, I think he had a couple of big games a couple of weeks ago. I think because he was a bit of a squeaky wheel action, was complaining a bit to the coaches and whatnot. And Watson, he can make a couple of big plays, or he can just go missing half the time. So
I was going to say,
hard to tell.
I'm trading for Romeo Dobbs as soon as I see another dummy spit. He'll have that 1 week suspension. Trade for him straight away because he seems to go off and he has those. So, he's probably.
I wish I held on to him in that dynasty league room, and I would have been able to get a king's ransom from him.
Mate, 3 first rounders minimum. Outside of that, mate, I mean, Josh Jacobs is probably the only consistent fantasy option for the Packers at the moment. He's been balling, as you said before, and will continue to for the remainder of the year. It's good to see he's getting his touchdowns now. Had a bit of a dry spell at the start of the year, having good yardage on the ground, but just not scoring. But now he's starting to score and putting those big scores on, so that's good to see. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, it's good to see from Jacobs. Yeah, like you said, he's was a bit inconsistent with those touchdowns at the start, but now they're rolling. The fantasy points are flowing. Hopefully, it depends what will happen with him next year, if he's going to stay there or not with that contract. It could be a bit of a one-offer, but he's definitely making a case for them to re-sign him. That's for sure.
I think he'll stay for sure, yeah, especially if they have a deep run too. So, on to the next game. Let's go into the Lions and the Jags. Now, this is a terrible, terrible game, but mate, we had a podcast. Obviously, you went on it, but on Thursday, I pretty much said smash start any Lions play that you've got in your roster. Laporta was going to be out, so that meant even more reason to start Jamison Williams for me. And they all boomed. Literally every single play that you'd start boomed. If you needed a deep tight end in Brock Wright, he scored a touchdown too. So everyone ate in this offense. It was pretty one-sided for the majority of the game.
Yeah, great call. Heading that out to your listeners last week, Matt, that was, everybody smashed. It seems like kind of Lions, they had a bit of a point to prove after that sloppy game against the Texans last week. Goff threw for 4 touchdowns when he threw for 5 ints last week. Maybe they were just like, let's just go out, really make a case here and just start putting these guys to sleep, which they definitely did.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It was just one-sided. The Jags defense is pretty crap anyway, so even if they kept up, if they had Trevor Lawrence in there, I don't think it would have made a big difference at all. But then again, with the shitty play from Mac Jones, the defense stays on the field for a bit longer, tires out, and that's when you get big plays just developing left, right, and center, and that's what happened pretty much all day, really. And then you got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles really just put them to the sword too. So
it's good to see 2 running backs on the same team being consistent week in, week out. But just this offense, they are just clicking. Surely they have the most points scored in the whole league, you'd have to think, and they're a big part of that.
And Super Bowl favorite at the moment too, believe it or not. So
wow, that's great. That's great to see.
It's close, but I mean, they're looking pretty damn good. And there's probably a reason for it. I don't disagree with it, but we'll see how they go. On the Jags side of things, mate, fucking disgusting all around. But the thing that probably screams to me the most was Travis Etienne's 12 carries for 27 yards. There was no Bigsby, so Travis Etienne saw the majority of the first down work this week. Box was stacked. He couldn't get anything going against a really, really good run defense too, might I add. Tough matchup. And Mac Jones just couldn't really get anything going to open it up either. So, mate, I'm worried about Travis Etienne now. I thought maybe he might come back, but he's now a few weeks in from his injury and there's been really no improvement. So, rest of season, he just stays on everyone's bench.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think, it's a very tough spot. I thought they might have been looking to trade Etienne potentially at the trade deadline, with how good Bigsby has been and, how bad their season is going, but very tough play to start. Yeah, definitely leave him on your bench. Don't eat the 12 for 27, caught 3 balls for nothing. Yes, definitely not something you want in your lineup.
And I didn't expect this coming to the year. I thought Travis Etienne was one of the safest running backs coming in. But something's happened to this whole offense, really. It's just been gross. And And look, partly it's on Eden as well. He keeps going down on first contact as well. So partly it's on him. The offense is crap. The offensive line's average. So, mate, I'm putting the Jags away for the remainder of the season until Trevor Lawrence is back in. I can't trust any of these players. Brian Thomas 5 for 82 was fine, but week to week, mate, I can't trust Mac Jones starting at QB and delivering to Brian Thomas on a good scale of body fantasy scores. So for me, all these players sit on the bench until Trevor Lawrence is back. Well, if he's back.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's the big question mark, right? If they're just going to shut him down for the year, which would be crazy to think that they don't. With the start that they're having, there's no real point in rushing him back and creating a cause for a re-injury. I did like to see Brian Thomas Jr. go off. Oh, not go off, but have that performance with Mac Jones. I think it just kind of puts in your head that he is a real talent. If he's able to do that with Mac Jones, even though some of it came in garbage time when Detroit were already up by 40 or whatnot. But no, it was still good to see. But yeah, just put the Jags to bed. They're done.
Yeah, I just can't trust that moving forward. Well, Gabe Davis is out for the year now, so maybe it's another reason why. Well, Gabe Davis has been nothing for a minute. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to be Brian Thomas and Ingram for the remainder of the year. I reckon they're going to be losing a lot of games. Game scripts are going to be in their favour, so you expect them to be throwing the ball for the remainder of the year. So maybe Brian Thomas might see some good volume, but I mean, there's better options to start and better offenses, and yeah, I think the Jags for the remainder of the year this is probably going to continue for them, and they'll be shit.
Definitely, yeah. If you can steer clear, do so. If you don't have that luxury, it's going to have to bite the bullet. And yeah,
pretty much. Let's go to the next game, mate. It was the Raiders and the Dolphins, where we saw the Dolphins getting a W, 34-19. Tua he bowled out in this game. I thought he was very, very good. 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if this is going to be a resurgence, but I don't mind Tua as a fantasy option moving forward for the remainder of the year. Probably needed a couple of weeks to sort of find his feet again, which he did. But yeah, I know he's distributing the ball out to Tyreek Hill, who was pretty good. Jonnu Smith was actually a real flash. I don't know if it's a flash in the pan or if this is going to be consistent. I don't know what to think about Jonnu Smith, but a streaming option.
Definitely. Oh, if you're struggling at tight end, which most of us are, and Jonnu's on waivers, pick him up. Don't let him go to waste because there's been a couple of games, not as big as this, where he's come out and performed. But it looks like Tua loves him. He's always wide open as well, which is crazy. But all I can say to that is I just wish a little bit more was on Tyreek Hill for my fantasy lineups this week.
And if you're getting a minimum of 7 points out of Jonnu Smith, like if that's the worst that you get out of him, I think you take that at tight end. It's such a barren forge of crap there. So if you get 7 points out of Jonnu Smith as the worst, I think that's all right. Because the upside's there with this offense. I mean, Jalen Waddle, mate, 2 catches for 37 yards. He's just a genuine landmine on rosters at the moment. You cannot play him until he starts performing, which is a shame because I think he's really good. I think he's really talented. So something's just not right there. I don't know if he's injured or the play calling's just not in his favour. He's playing a different role or anything like that compared to his previous couple of years in the league. But for me, it's been very disappointing.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I feel the same way. I know Waddle in a lot of startups this year, he was going in an early 3rd and 4th round. People really thought it was going to be a smash spot. I know you can't predict the Tua injury that happened at the start, but yeah, very disappointing. The play calling has been weird for Mike McDaniels as well. Hopefully that kind of picks up, but it's from what they were without Tua to now, it's definitely an improvement. But yeah, Waddle, leave him on your bench. Don't take that risk. You can't.
Devon A-Chain has been on a tear with Tua. I think he averages to be a top 2 RB when Tua plays. So he's again just a smash start week to week, and has the ability to have a 35-point game easily. So
absolutely, and he can make your day on one play. He can break off a huge run for a touchdown. That day made plus everything on top is just it's just gravy. So yeah, definitely with Tua back, he is he's a top 5 RB in my opinion.
Yeah, mate, I don't even go as quick as top 3. Top 2 would be close as well.
Yeah.
So
That
Yeah.
upside is huge.
Oh,
For sure.
absolutely, mate. Absolutely. On the Raiders side of things, mate, I'm going to mention Zamir White first of all, and Madison have gone down injured. I don't know the severity of the injury. We don't know if that's multi-week, out for a week, or just banged up, should play next week. But that's one to monitor if you own any of them, which I don't imagine you'd start them anyway. But if you don't, Amir Abdullah will be the next man up, you'd expect. And who knows what that will be. But just one to watch if you're real desperate at RB. He might be a nice little waiver wire pickup during the week if you're real desperate.
Yeah, for sure. You know that, and if it's true that Madison and White are going to be out, he's going to get all the volume. So yeah, it's going to be gross. But if he's out there, yeah, definitely one to watch. Agree with that.
Yeah. Outside of that, Brock Bowers is going by a phenomenal season. He might
Yeah.
break records at the end of the year. He'll smash Laporta's record. He might even smash the rookie record for wide receivers for yards in a season too. So he's 13 for 126 and a touchdown. He's really just him.
Yeah, absolutely wild. And I saw that stat today. I think he's second currently in the rookie reception tiers at the pace he's going. So yeah, he's been an absolute smash, Brock Bowers, and he's giving faith to the tight end room. It's another good player, young player. But yeah, it just looks like he's their offense at the moment. You know, targeted 16 times in this game. He just does it all.
Yeah, and especially with game script as well, mate, they're going to be down in most games. So,
Definitely.
you expect this to continue. I know you said at the start when we were off air that they've got a really nice schedule to end the year, but yeah, when you've got a shit QB, no matter which option you go down, it's pretty grim. So yeah, Jacoby Myers, he might be okay in the better matchups, but all in all, mate, him and Bowers, that's pretty much the offense, I'd say.
Yeah, it's tough. You can't really trust anyone. And there was talks that Antonio Pierce was going to make the switch to Desmond Ritter earlier in the week. He pulled the pin, got cold feet, and he put in Gardner Minshew, which was interesting. But I think compared to Desmond Ritter, that's probably who you want. But yeah, this offense moving forward, Bowers, Myers, and that's pretty much it.
And I think they'll stick with Minshew again next week too. I mean, 282 and 2 touchdowns isn't a bad game. So they'll probably go again with Minshew. So they're in that hunt for getting a QB in the draft. They're now 2-8 on the year, I believe. So they're in that hunt to pretty much just ride with the shit hand and hopefully get a top pick at the end of the year. So that's one to watch for them for any dynasty users, because that will be a nice little selection at QB for them.
Absolutely. And Shadul Sanders, he's been posting a lot of stuff. I've been seeing on Twitter every time the Raiders lose, he says like, "Thank you, God," just because I think he just wants that pick to get higher and higher. So that's definitely a good one to watch.
Absolutely, mate. Let's move on to the next one, mate. Rams versus Pats, which the Rams won 28-22. I'm going to start with the Rams, and I know the running backs are balling this year. They're outscoring the wide receivers by a lot. But Kyron Williams, 15 carries for 86 yards, no touchdowns, no passing work. I thought he was really good in this game. 5.7 yards per carry, but ends with a big 8.6 for fantasy. Now, that is brutal because he dominated that game. But because he saw no passing work and no touchdowns, it's just an average fantasy score. That's how brutal the RB position can be sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It was very tough. And, you think, I think his line to score a touchdown in like pretty much every game is like $1.50 odd. So you think he's a sure thing. But this game was just a couple of long bombs. I know Cooper Kupp got one for like 70 yards nearly for a touchdown, which, took that away from Kyron. But it's tough. And Kyron's looked so good this year. He didn't get any receiving work either this game, which, kind of lowers his floor, which is unfortunate. You just got to pray and hope that he gets a touchdown, which moving forward, you'd think it'd be a sure thing for each week.
Yeah, for the remainder of the season, I'm not too worried about. But yeah, if you needed him for this week to go off, 8.6, it's pretty brutal.
Definitely let down.
Yeah, and he had a big one. I thought he had a really good game too. So, but yeah, mate, as you said, Cooper Kupp had that long ball. It busted coverage, might I add. But it was, gross from the Pats. And Puka Nacua, really, they're just 1A, 1B. There's no number 1, number 2. It's 1A, 1B. And I don't know. You can start them both any week, mate. They're both going to go off. Matt Stafford loves throwing the pill around and usually generally pretty efficient with it too. So all in all, mate, this offense is it's awesome for fantasy.
Yeah, locked and loaded. Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, start him every week. Matt Stafford, he was on the nice receiving end of that, getting 4 touchdowns as well for his efforts, which, hinders Kyron like we were talking about earlier. But, if you played Stafford this week, you'd be very happy with that outcome.
Absolutely. Now, the Patriots, let's move on to them, mate. I don't really like talking about the Patriots because there's not really any options there that I go, oh, shit, like this is really good. But Drake May is probably the one that I'm going to mention for Superflex owners, maybe even 1 QB leagues. But he has been a real shining light. I know he's a top pick in the draft and everything like that, and he was talented coming in and high expectations. Like, I get all that. But with a receiving core of Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, he's making well of what he's got around him with a shit offensive line too. So, but I'm really, really impressed with what Drake May has got in his bag, and they just need to surround him with some weapons in the offseason, and he could be a real big contributor to fantasy next season.
Oh, definitely. It's very promising seeing what he's doing now with the cards that he's been dealt. Like you said, the wide receiving core is not very friendly at all. Hunter Henry's been like the shining light. He's been very startable this season so far when May's been on the center. But yeah, he adds a good floor with his rushing. He only had 3 carries for 27 yards this game, but I think he eclipsed 95 yards or something like that on the ground against the Bears the other week, which is always good. We love those rushing quarterbacks when it comes to fantasy. They just offer such good output for what they can do, and he's been a killer actually too with accuracy. 30 from 40. With the weapons that he has and the O-line that he has, very promising for the future. And hopefully the Patriots can make some good picks in the offseason.
Absolutely, mate. And Ramondre Stevenson, I know we've been in each other's DMs a few times about Ramondre, and I've been a bit picky on him. I'm trying to sell him high, and I'm trying to sell him high. But all in all, mate, I think he's he's got a contract, and he'll have no one for the next 3 years. He's doing well with what he's got too. So if this offense can get better and better, I think moving forward, remainder of the season is going to be rough with the Patriots, but moving forward in Dynasty, I think Ramondre Stevenson, Drake May, probably your 2 options there will be relatively safe.
Yeah, honestly, Matt, it's hard to say if you're talking up Ramondre Stevenson for the future just because of our Dynasty negotiations. No, I agree. He does look really good, and he adds that receiving work as well. You watch these games and they just load up that box on defense whenever the Patriots are on attack, and he can't really do too much. He's getting all the work, getting a couple of catches to go with it, but I just don't know if I'm there to pay a first on him yet.
120.25 first is the price tag, mate. Come buy him. He's coming cheap. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next game. And I hate talking about the Pats with this shitty team, so we'll move on. Let's move on to the Browns and the Saints, mate, which was a really good fantasy game, might I add, where the Saints won 35-14. And look, let's start with the Saints. Let's just get it out of the bag early, mate. Taysom Hill, fucking hell. He literally did everything. He was passing the ball. He was being the receiver. He was playing tight end. He was playing as the running back. He was kick returns. Literally everything. They just threw him all the work and go, mate, have fun. And he balled.
Drop your pants for Taysom Hill. He is just, he just did it all. 3 touchdowns. If you've got him in leagues, you're feeling very, very happy rest of season because the Saints really, besides Kamara, they've got no one else. So he's just getting all the work. And to see him get 3 touchdowns, that's just 7 for 138 is on the ground is just, wow.
And especially that last touchdown that he scored too, that 70-yard touchdown. And it's always interesting when you see a big guy like Taysom Hill out of the backfield. And mate, he took off really, really slow, right? He looked slower. So I'm thinking in my peak, I'm going, fuck, mate, I couldn't fucking stop him. I know he's 100 kilos and everything like that, but he was not moving quick at all. I'm thinking, oh man, I'll take him down. Like just go for the knees or something like that. He'll go down. But mate, he was breaking tackles. He was just looking like he broke like 3 or 4 tackles with that run. So
Yeah,
Would you
which is crazy.
I know they're on bye next week. Would you pick him up off the waivers and stash him on your bench for a week and then maybe start him? Or is this just a flash in the pan sort of week and you might see a 4 out of him the next time they play?
Absolutely. If he's on your waivers, grab him without hesitation. If it's a fab system, I'd probably unload, 30-40% of what I got left. Even if I'm really struggling at tight end, I'd be throwing the kitchen sink at him just to try and lock that up. Because you think rest of the season, they've got no one else. They are on bye next week, like he said. But with the tight end position how it is, and also you can flex him in quarterback as well, which is a nice little piece. Yeah, if he's out there and you need tight end help, even a flex play, I'd be happy to do that. I had to start him in a couple of leagues on the flex this week, and I was not disappointed. You definitely can't be expecting this kind of output week in, week out, but
no,
he's gonna get a lot of volume. So
I'm glad you said the QB position because he's a QB tight end and sleeper.
Unicorn.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of that, mate, MVS Marquez Valdez Scantling, 2 for 87. So had that long ball touchdown. Some guys a lot of people would have picked him up for the waivers. I don't really love that still. I know he had that long ball to boost his score, but he's a real boom or bust player. He doesn't have that touchdown. He scores fucking nothing. So I don't love that, but whatever.
Absolutely. And just I don't want to spend too much time on MVS, but I know it's stat against Cleveland. The defense is giving away like the most explosive plays this year so far. So that's kind of all he knows. Derek Carr, we know he likes to chuck it deep when he had Rashid Shaheed. So MVS was just kind of filling in that gap and got lucky with that big touchdown.
Yeah, and Derek Carr's, as you said, not afraid to throw it around. So, mate, I completely agree. But yeah, if you're a Alvin Kamara fan or owner, should I say, you'd be absolutely cursing at Taysom Hill stealing his work. Could have been an ultra big day for Alvin Kamara, but Taysom Hill vultures it off him. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
On the Brown side of things, mate. The running game I'm going to start with there is disgusting. Game script-wise, it's never going to look good for them. This is going to be pretty much the remainder of the year where they're going to be down multiple scores and playing catch-up. So Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford, you can't trust them. If you had to pick one, Nick Chubb would be the guy. Stash him on the bench, can't start him unless you need to during bye weeks. But again, he has a really, really low floor and not a very high ceiling at the moment. So, that's interesting.
Definitely. And he's just not getting the opportunities at the goal line either to, salvage his week. Still coming off that big knee injury that he had last year, and he's creeping up. I think he's 28 years old, which is, not in his favor. But without that goal line work, that Winston threw a couple of touchdowns in this game, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. But they were just long bombs. He wasn't close to the goal line at all to get that chance to run it in and salvage his fantasy day, which is a shame because there's a lot of Nick Chubb lovers out there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jameis Winston and throwing the ball deep because he's got Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman. So 4 really good options here for fantasy. And looks like Jerry Jeudy's starting to really sort his game out too. I wonder what Steve Smith thinks about him now. But all in all, mate, I think all these guys are looking to really pop off. And Elijah Moore had a nice little touchdown catch as well in that end zone. That was actually a really nice catch, might I add. But yeah, all these guys are starting to get going. Cedric Tillman was didn't really have a good game this week, but mate, their outlook for the remainder of the season, they're all going to be fine. It's just going to be who pops up in what week, really.
Yeah, definitely. And in this game, Jerry Jeudy, I think he kind of asserted himself as the main man talent-wise on that offense. We know Cedric Tillman has been going off these last couple of weeks, but Jeudy just looked good, which is feels a bit sick to say it after the last couple of years that he's had, but he's looked really good. With Winston not afraid to throw it, all these guys are kind of in a good place.
Agreed. I think that's about it for that game, mate. Let's move on to the next one, which was the Colts and the Jets. And the Jets, bloody hell, they lose another game where they probably should have won, but the Colts win 28-27. And I'm going to start with the Colts, mate. Let's get the other part out of the bag too, because Anthony Richardson was back this week and looked really, really good. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that Anthony Richardson learnt anything by sitting on the sidelines for a couple of weeks and watching Joe Flacco play? Or do you think that he just needed a couple of weeks off to get his body fresh and healthy? Because he did have that injury, that hip flexor. But maybe he needed an extra couple of weeks to get healthy. What do you think was the biggest thing in terms of the play out of Anthony Richardson this week?
I think the biggest part of him sitting those couple of weeks, injuries, in my mind does play a part, but he just looked so bad leading up this year. He just looked horrid. Maybe those couple of weeks off just kind of gave him a chance to sit back and kind of take it in a bit more and process in his head what he needed to do moving forward. Because he looked great in this game. He made some good passes. Ran in that touchdown at the end where he just ran in, dropped the shoulder into the defender across the goal line, looked sick. Got that big body over there. But I think, those 2 weeks off definitely helped him out, and also helped him out that Flacco looked horrid, the 2 starts that he had.
I close my eyes every time I see Anthony Richardson drop a shoulder. I just get flashbacks to last year when his shoulder anyway. He tries to truck blokes that are double his size and doesn't work out to his favour. But hey, look, he did it today. Did it on the weekend, and game-winning touchdown. That was all good. Jonathan Taylor's pretty crap. 24 for 57, 24 carries, 57 yards. Should I say that was pretty crap? But outside of that, mate, Josh Downs is continuing to break out. Doesn't matter who he has a QB at the moment, if it's Anthony Richardson or if it's Flacco, he is on an absolute tear. I traded him in a dynasty league to get CD Lamb in, and looks like Josh Downs might be the better option at the moment. So, that makes me a bit sad. But
if you're looking to get back into the Josh Downs, territory, I've got him in the league. Reach out. I'll listen to offers. He looks really good, and you'd feel. I know when I got the news of being a Josh Downs owner and got the news of Richardson starting, I was not happy. I thought he was going to be absolutely shot. He just produces. I think he's just that good of a player, that explosive. He's always finds an open spot in the zone coverage as well, and he just makes it easy, honestly, for Anthony Richardson. So he's definitely a quarterback friendly player. You'd think he just keeps performing at this rate.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Michael Pittman's another one I want to mention as well. He's still carrying that back injury. He's slightly getting better and better week to week. But all in all, this isn't the Pittman Jr. that we know of last year. He was a top 15 wide receiver. Maybe Josh Downs has gone past him as well. But all in all, mate, Pittman has been a massive bust for me this year too. So I expected him to really probably be another top 15 wide receiver. I thought he was going to be a safe option, being 25 years old or 24 years old, whatever old he is. He's still young. He's been pretty crap.
Sad to see. And there was question marks kind of coming in. How would Richardson go throwing to Michael Pittman? But that small game sample size that we had at the start of last year, Pittman, he scored 20 points in a couple of games, was looking good. And he's just kind of been smacked around with injuries a bit too much, you think, a bit of inconsistency with the offense as a whole. And he's just, not being good. You'd be a bit sad if you drafted him. I think it was in the 4th or 5th round. He was kind of averaging at the start of the year. So, you're not happy with the investment there, but you just hope that you picked up Josh Downs in the later rounds.
I will say, though, for next year, Pittman will have a really, really, really low or high.
Low.
So you could get him in you could get him in like the 9th or 10th round maybe next year, and he could like ball out for us. So anyway, we'll talk about that in the off season. But anyway, outside of that, mate, nothing else that I really liked on the Colts side of things. I thought that was a really good game for Anthony Richardson as a bounce back. Let's see if that can continue. 28 points, but interested to see that. On the Jets side of things, mate, Breece Hall absolutely went off. Now, 16 for 78 and a touchdown, 7 for 43 and 1 touchdown through the air. Now, I looked at Breece Hall's stats last year, or second half of the year, and he was like the RB1 last year at the second half of the year. He was scoring like a couple of games, he had 40 plus. do we think Brees Hall might just be getting going and could be like a league winner potentially at the end of the year?
Oh, you'd hope so. With the investment that you spent up on him, he was a back end of the first round pick. You thought it was going to be an absolute smash spot. With Aaron Rodgers back in the offense, everything's going to be firing. But it's just been a bit disappointing, kind of overall for Brees Hall. With the coach firing and Robert Saleh midway through the year and some change in offensive coordinators. But no, Brees Hall, he's got a great schedule coming up for the rest of the season. And you'd really hope that he just continues to smash. And it was also good to see Braylon Allen really didn't get many looks, which was great for Brees Hall.
That helps as well, absolutely. Yeah, spot on. But I also want to mention the Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams partnership as well. Now, last week was probably the week where they both sort of ate. But all in all, mate, I can't trust both of these guys as fantasy options for the remainder of the season. It feels like it's going to be one or the other. Now, and that's due to probably the poor play from Aaron Rodgers and the Colts, from the Jets in general, really. But until Aaron Rodgers starting to get going again, it's going to be one or the other, and you're going to be disappointed one way or another.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It was a bit sad. They've kind of been working not too bad the last couple of weeks, but yeah, I think you just kind of count this one down to a bad game from Aaron Rodgers and the offense as a whole. They just couldn't really get it going. I thought it was pretty funny to see them lose this game, just to see what kind of, Aaron Rodgers, how he's going to handle it in the media. But, they're both getting heaps of targets, 7 targets for Devontae, 8 targets for Garrett Wilson. The volume's there, but it's just, I think just the offense as a whole, it's a bit inconsistent. Scratching your head again.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be like that for the remainder of the year, mate. I just don't know. And I hope it's not. I hope they can actually sort it out, because Devontae and Garrett Wilson on paper, you look at it and go, shit, how are we going to stop these guys?
Absolutely.
And then you got Brees Hall in the backfield too. He's like, oh, crap. And then you got Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest of all time, passing the ball. Like, oh, fuck, how are we going to stop these guys? But, mate, they just can't work out at the moment. Maybe they just need another offseason with some good coaching to sort this one out. Maybe next year's the year.
Yeah, another off season. Aaron Rodgers needs to try and get in more Avengers. Just trying to keep just calling shots. Gets in Devontae. Head coach is gone, and still I don't think they've put together one win since the head coaching change, which is just it's not good for the team.
And the defense got worse.
Yeah, they've got like you used to be scared of the Jets defense. You think you got players against these guys in a week. You're thinking, all right, crap, they're not going to be any good. But now people are scoring on them. They just Colts put up 28 points against the Jets. You wouldn't believe that if I told you that last year. So it's
with Richo.
Big change with Richo, exactly, which is a huge change.
Absolutely, mate. Now let's move on to the next game. Steelers have beaten the Ravens 18-16. Wow. 8-2 Steelers versus the 7-4 Steelers now, I suppose. Did not see this coming at the start of the year, might I add. But let's start with the Steelers, mate. George Pickens is continuing on his breakout season. 8 for 89, really good game, but no touchdown to go along with it, which is a bit disappointing. That could have been an ultra big day for him if he had a score to go along with it. But, mate, Pickens for the remainder of the season, I've got no problem with him, with Russell Wilson at centre. Same with the run game too, mate. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Looks like it's a 70-30 split, but Najee seems like it's going to be fine. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think rest of the season outlook for George Pickens looks really promising. They've got a very soft schedule rest of the season. I know they play Ravens again, I think, in the fantasy playoffs at some page. So, this is just, you'd probably expect the same kind of line, hopefully with a touchdown. But here's that wide receiver room. 12 targets. Absolutely dominating there. Russell Wilson and him, they're just loving each other. I saw a clip. Pickens, he looks very happy at the moment, which he would. With the rushing there, the Steelers are never going to stop pounding the rock. Najee 18 carries, Warren 9 carries. A bit of and Najee got some of the receiving game as well, so not too bad of a day for him. But Pickens wheels up rest of the season.
Agreed, mate. Agreed. And especially against an average defense as well, in terms of the Ravens. Their secondary's been pretty poor this year. But to score 18 points, I was a little bit disappointed with. No passing touchdowns at all, really, for the game. I was, a little bit disappointed with. But, hey, they won the game, so they're not really too disappointed. On the Ravens side of things, mate, against I'm going to mention the Ravens, but they're playing against a solid defense, right? But
Absolutely.
I want to mention Zay Flowers. Now, 2 for 39 and a touchdown, saved. I don't even know if it's even the save really, but had that touchdown late in the game. Otherwise, it would have been a one-catch day for 10 yards. Inconsistency from Zay Flowers. I really like him as a player. I think he's awesome. When he's in motion, he's zippy, hard to tackle. When he breaks out for one, you're not catching him. But week to week, you just don't know what Zay Flowers you're going to get.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, the touchdown definitely salvaged his day. He would have ended up around 10 points, which isn't too bad. You would be expecting a lot more. I probably just kind of put it down to how tough the matchup is. Usually in these divisional games, I think Steelers, they just have the Ravens number, and they just couldn't really do too much. Definitely sad for Zay because when he's on, he's on. He's had some huge games this year. But this is the downside to it. He has games like this as well.
Absolutely. Derrick Henry, 13 for 65 and a touchdown. So he just keeps continuing on his score streak that he's got going. I think he's got 15 touchdowns already for the year. They got saved by one this week. Otherwise, it would have been a 6.5, something around there. So you'll take the 12, 13 points you get out of him. If that's the lowest point of Derrick Henry, then geez, he's got a high ceiling.
Definitely. Just to add on Maverick, just to add on the receiving side, I was a bit surprised that Deontay Johnson didn't really get too much work. I thought, maybe that kind of script of against his old team, he might have got worked in a little bit, but he got a couple of targets early and then I don't even know if he was on the field. He was just not there at all. I don't know if that's maybe they're still trying to work him in or they've got too many pieces besides him that they kind of like more. It was interesting.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Deontay Johnson's not a bad receiver. He was killing it at the back end of his Carolina days. I don't mind him as a player. I think he's a good route runner. He can do a bit of everything for you, whatever the job is, but he's just not seeing any work at all. So massive concern for owners, dynasty owners. If he's in redraft, you probably drop him at this point.
Definitely.
In dynasty, it's a massive concern too because I'm pretty sure he's a free agent at the end of the year too. So he ain't staying around.
Yeah, he is. He is, and I think they paid like a 4th or 5th pick for him as well. So it's a bit of an investment. Maybe they just kind of thought, come maybe in the playoffs last year, they might have thought they were a piece or two short, so they're just kind of loading up for then. It's disappointing if you're a manager. You definitely drop candidate.
Absolutely, mate. All right, let's move on to the next one, which was the Vikings and Titans, where the Vikings won 23-13. Now, I'm going to start with the Titans, mate, on this one. Will Levis, I thought, was pretty good. 295 touchdown. I thought that was fine. Progress, but, they're 2-8, so if they have the number one pick, I think they will go QB as well. But Tony Pollard, 9 for 15. I know the Vikings had a really, really solid run defense. Game script-wise wasn't in his favour either, but 9 for 15, 1.7 yards per carry is a massive concern. It wasn't like he got outsnapped by Tajay Spears or anything like that, because Tajay Spears had 3 carries for 0 yards. So it's just more of a bad matchup, bad game script. All in all, just pretty yuck.
Yeah, it's disappointing, and like you mentioned, the bad matchup. You kind of want to just sweep this under the rug and go on to the next week. But 9 for 15 doesn't really offer you much. You would have started him, in your teams this week. It's not good to see. Only a couple of catches as well. It helps out a little bit, but nowhere near enough. Hopefully it just comes down to how good the Vikings are being on defense this year, especially in the run game. Hopefully brighter days ahead for Tony Pollard. I know he actually has got a very good schedule rest of season, especially that fantasy playoffs. They play the Jags, I think in week 15 and week 17 or something like that. So you'd think that they're going to be smash spots. So hopefully we can just put this week aside for Tony Pollard.
I'm glad you mentioned that, mate. Now, next week he's got Houston, so that's a tough matchup for him. But the weeks after that is Washington, Jacksonville, and then in the playoffs it's Cincinnati, Colts, and the Jags in the final. So, mate, all in all, I think it's just going to be one more tough week for him, and then it's going to be brightening up a little bit for him. So, we'll have that. I reckon he'll have a safe floor with a really high ceiling in those 5 weeks too, where it's just green.
And could even be a great opportunity to buy low if you haven't had your trade deadline pass already. With how good that the rest of the season matchup is, besides next week, you'd think that he'd be able to do a lot. And with the performance that he's had, hopefully you can catch the fantasy owner on a bad day and take advantage of that.
And now you said that he'll get injured next week.
Yeah.
But all in all, mate, I don't want to go too much into the Titans. It was pretty yuck all around. Like Calvin Ridley, 4 for 58, it was okay, but nothing really to get excited about. And Westbrook, Keeney, just one long ball, whatever. That happens. On the Viking side of things, mate, I was a bit disappointed with Aaron Jones, 15 for 39. Now the Titans have a really good run defense, so temper expectations there. Cam Akers, 10 for 25 and had a touchdown, I believe, too, didn't he? He had a receiving touchdown. So he got saved there. But 15 carries for 10, whatever. I'm not really looking into that too much. Justin Jefferson, 6 for 81. You probably want more out of such a good player like him. And then, Jordan Addison got that touchdown for 3 for 61 on a touchdown net. So he got that one, which moves him up to a whopping wide receiver 55 on the year. So that's pretty gross.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You'd have higher hopes for Addison coming out this year, especially with the injury to Hawkinson. Missing all that time, you'd hope he'd get up to a better start to that. He can salvage his day with a big touchdown, but it's just too inconsistent. It's definitely not what you want to be starting week in, week out. In terms of Justin Jefferson, this is probably his floor. Even that, probably the lower floor of the year so far. You'd expect a bit more targets in receiving, but they were just in control the whole game. Really, they didn't really need him too much. So
I agree. And same with Hawkinson too. I thought this might have been a week for him where he can break out, but Josh Oliver had more catches than him in the end. So I don't know. They're playing a lot of 2 tight end sets as well. So I don't know. Hawkinson's still fine for the remainder of the year, but he's growing pains off the injury. So.
Yeah, and completely agree. And just to add on Aaron Jones, I know he was carrying a fair few injuries leading into this game as well, so maybe it could come down to that. You can kind of take it a bit easy on him, but definitely. So maybe also another buy low spot.
Yeah. I don't hate that, mate. I don't hate that at all. Falcons Broncos, which was an absolute spanking. Where the Broncos won 38-6. Bo Nix continues just to have a rookie of the year, maybe. I don't know. He's in contention.
Yeah.
He's in contention.
No, could be a sneaky little futures bet play if that's your flavour. I know Jaden Daniels was the lead favourite by a mile, but the way that Bo Nix is playing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, very efficient, 28 of 33. He's just him and Shorten Payton are just a perfect match. He's doing it all.
Mate, if the Commanders lose the next 2 games and the Broncos win the next 2 games and Bo Nix balls out, then that'll change, I reckon. I think that'll come a bit closer in, and you think that Bo Nix might be the rookie of the year. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Javonte Williams, Stime, Joel McLaughlin. What is going on there? I can't work out what's going on. It was 15 carries to 1 in favour of Stime last week. Now it's 9-6 in favour of Javonte Williams, plus that rushing touchdown. Oh, God, what the fuck do we do with these guys? You can't start any of them. They're sitting on your bench, and hopefully one goes down injured that you can just play then. But, God, it's just so, I don't know, a lot of inconsistency.
Yeah, you can't pick it. And especially with Sean Payton, letting us false hope, saying that Estime was going to get more worked in this week, and it's just a complete reverse. And Javonte, maybe a trade high candidate. 9 for 59, he got that touchdown. A little, 4 receptions as well, which brought his overall score up a bit higher. But it's just get away from this backfield if you can. It's too confusing.
Agreed. Cortland Sutton keeps doing what he's doing. But all in all, mate, the ball gets spread around to everyone involved in the offense. So everyone's eating. So, anyway. On the Falcons side of things, mate, really, really disappointing against a really tough defense, might I add, in the Broncos. But, there was no one here that I look at and go, they had a really good day. They all had stinkers. There's not one player here at all. Rajan, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, who got benched in the last quarter, where you thought was injured, benched, I don't know, managing, whatever it was. Yeah, I think just one bad week and we move on.
Yeah, very disappointing. Very hard defense against the Broncos. They've been locking down a lot of offenses this year. Darnell Mooney, I think I heard there was a little hamstring injury at the back end of that game. We'll have to see what happens with the injury reports this week for week 12. But yeah, all in all, tough defense, tough week for the Atlanta offense.
And Patrick Satan has taken another victim.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next game, mate. Seahawks-Niners, which turned out to be a half-decent game in the end, where the Seahawks won 20-17 on Geno's game-winning touchdown. That boosted his fantasy score too, because he didn't throw for any touchdowns or anything like that. It was, what was it, a 15-yard touchdown, rushing touchdown, I think it was. Maybe longer, maybe even 18 yards, whatever it was. But that saved his day. Otherwise, he's going to have like a 5 or a 6. So that's good to see for fantasy owners that started in this week. Smith and Jigba is really starting to break out, isn't he? Last couple of weeks, been seeing bulk targets and using the targets really well, hauling them in, and points after yards after the catch and everything like that. He's been really good. So he's probably another maybe a sell high candidate, or you just keep rolling with the hot hand. I don't know what you do, but I'd probably just hold personally.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah. Hold on to JSN. That connection with him and Gino is just getting stronger and stronger. DK, after not too bad either, 7 for 70. He was coming off the bye and was injured for the past few weeks, so maybe he's still trying to get himself back to normal. But yeah, JSN, hold, that connection is really going. And against a tough defense in the 49ers as well, who have been locking people down. You definitely love to see it.
Yeah, bloody oath, mate. And Kenny Walker had his day save that touchdown as well. 14 for 54, but no concern there. He's still been really, really solid and will continue to be. So no concern there at all. On the Niners side of things, mate, Brock Purdy, he was okay. 159 yards through the air, 40 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. But he was fine. But the guy who I want to mention, mate, and I'm going to start calling him Brandon Ayuk, is Juwan Jennings, because he is looking like what we thought Brandon Ayuk would look like this year.
Oh, absolutely. And, he slotted into that role so well. Even when Ayuk was there, he had that big breakaway game. I think he scored like 4 touchdowns and had 150 yards or something like that. He's been the most consistent player on this team the last couple of weeks, and Brock Purdy loves him. They've got that connection. 10 for 91 and a touchdown, 11 targets in 2 straight weeks. You love to see that volume. And you're absolutely cheering if you were one of the owners who picked him up off waivers a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think for the remainder of the year, you keep starting him too, because I think he knows the system. He's lining up in the Brandon Ayuk areas that Ayuk was actually doing, but he's actually contributing. So I think you start him for the remainder of the year because he just keeps doing what he's doing. TMC, I thought was fine. He's getting better and better as the weeks go along. Now, if you've drafted him and have held on to him this long, I dare say that you're on your, probably at the bottom 4 on your ladders, or your standings, should I say? I'd imagine. I could be wrong. But yeah, holding him for 10 weeks and not playing is tough to hold. So that's just an assumption. But he's getting better and better. And Deebo Samuel was a real big bust, wasn't he?
Yeah, tough to see. One thing I was kind of looking at, in these divisional matchups, the big players usually step out, and Deebo, if you look at his history against the Seahawks, he absolutely slaps them. And to see this, 4 for 22, what can you do with that? What can you do with that? Very disappointing week. Juwan Jennings just all the way. Deebo Samuel rest of the season. I know they've got a nice playoff schedule, but it's just too inconsistent.
Yeah, and no Kittle as well, so maybe Juwan Jennings got a little boost there because of no Kittle cat. But but all in all, mate, I still think Juwan's a safe option, as you said. So
definitely.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next game, mate. And now I know you're going to be getting just a little bit of movement on this game, so go on, mate. Get it ready.
Yeah, well,
Bills have beaten the Chiefs.
Beat the Chiefs. They've taken that all away. Another special shout out to all you Chiefs fans out there. Get that one into you. That was an absolute game, though. All in all, very great game. Bills are just kind of showing that they're kind of up there in levels in terms of the Chiefs. Their defense played very tough, very aggressive. Usually the Chiefs are the ones being a bit rough, and kind of meeting up in that situation. But the Bills just kind of took care of business. And my God, Josh Allen, he is just the best. He is just the killer. That last play, 4-2, game on the line, runs it for 30 yards, or runs it for 26 yards. I think that's that game-winning touchdown. To seal the deal, he is just gotta love him. Gotta love Josh Allen.
Is he the MVP right now?
Has
Not biased you.
Has to be. And like it can't be cheap. Like I know Mahomes is up there with how they were 9-0, but the way he's been playing, I know that two intercepts. He's just having a very bad passing year, and that his defense has kind of been kind of pulling him along, winning these games. But yeah, no, great to see Josh Allen MVP. Get your tickets in; they're going to cash guaranteed.
Coach Cooper, Amari Cooper, 255. Yuck. Now I thought he was going to be a massive beneficiary of good QB play. Obviously, he was playing with Watson, didn't see any Jameis at all, but has now seen Josh Allen and hasn't really got going at all yet. I don't know if he will. Is he washed? Maybe. I'm not sure. But
yeah, it's a tough one with Cooper. He's still new to the offense. He's been dealing with that injury. He's had the last couple of weeks off. And jokes aside, the Chiefs defense has been the best all year in my eyes. So it's very tough for him to kind of step in. He made a couple of big grabs, a couple of clutch plays, but you just kind of hope that, moving forward, hopefully better matchups. He won't have so much attention on him and he can kind of put in work. But I've got faith, and I'm not just saying that because I've got him in a couple of leagues. Holding out faith for Amari Cooper.
Absolutely, mate. James Cook, 9 for 20, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, lol. Yeah, not much to say there. Chiefs side of things, it really felt like the Bills trying to just shut down Travis Kelce and let anyone else beat them. So in this game, it was a Xavier Worthy show. A real boom or bust player, I reckon, in fantasy anyway. He doesn't have a lot of... He just has, he'll have one catch for 30 yards or he'll have 4 for 75 and a touchdown. And that was one of those games this week where if you start him, you'd be happy, but all in all, you'd be pretty disappointed for the remainder of the year. But I want to mention as well, mate, they are saying that Pacheco is back next week. Now, that makes it hard because if you've got Kareem Hunt and Pacheco for the handcuff, you probably roll with Pacheco next week, I'd say. And Kareem Hunt would be in that change of pace role, maybe.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Maverick. The way I see it, it is a very big injury that Pacheco was kind of coming off. So you'd hate to think that they're just going to kind of throw him into the deep end straight away without working him in. I'd probably leave it a week with both of these guys if you have other options besides Kareem Hunt or Pacheco that you can play. Kind of steer clear, wait and see kind of game. I like to think, but if you've got Kareem Hunt and you can trade him away now. He's just gonna, as soon as Pacheco comes in, who knows? He could come in next week and be the absolute man. And Kareem Hunt is just, gone into the abyss. He'll be worth absolutely nothing.
I'm very optimistic with Pacheco this week because they've gone pretty quick with him and gone, nah, he's back in, he's playing. So he must be like healthy, ready to go too. So the other thing is I'll say with Pacheco, man, he's going to be fresh. Not many miles on the body this year. I know he's got the injury, but not many miles on the body. So, mate, he could be a nice option for the remainder of the year too, especially going into fantasy playoffs. If you can buy not so much low, but not so much high, sort of in between, mate, he could be really beneficial.
Yeah, no, he could be. And the talent's definitely there. Kareem Hunt, he hasn't really had too much in the receiving end, and that's kind of where Pacheco was picking up when he was playing at the start of the year. So, that receiving work picks up his floor. And they do love him over there in the Chiefs kingdom. So, glass half full. Like you said earlier, you'd hope to see these players come back and go full steam ahead.
And I do believe with Pacheco as well, he can rip off those bigger plays where Kareem Hunt has obviously a bit older now and can't do that. He's more your 4 or 5 yard gains versus your Pacheco's long. He can break out for a 30, 40 yarder. So that's another thing too. I reckon Pacheco's got his game too. So
definitely, yeah. Kareem's got that old man speed.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next game, mate. What we got left? 2 to go. Chargers Bengals, where the Chargers won 34-27. This was an awesome game to watch. Where pretty much all fantasy options were fine. Chargers, Justin Herbert is looking really, really well. Since he's got over that injury that he had at the start of the year with the plantar fasciitis and the high ankle sprain and everything like that, he's looking really, really good. Dobbins keeps dominating. Lad McConkey started to get going. He had some clutch catches in that last quarter, the last drive, should I say, to set up the game-winning drive, or game-winning touchdown, should I say. All in all, mate, I think the Chargers are on the up.
Oh, absolutely. And their defense has been clicking. Besides they did allow 27 points, but the Bengals on offense, they've been doing everything. Joe's been carrying those teams. It's very sad to see that they're off to a 4-7 start. But yeah, on the Chargers side, Herbert, great to see him healthy. He's an absolute beast. In words of Coach Harbaugh, he just loves him. He's just like, I think I might need to start calling him beast from now on. He does it all. He had a huge run, 30 yards down the line. Looked pretty quick too. Definitely quicker than I would be on the field. But yeah, no, the Chargers looking great. The defense is clicking, the offense is clicking. It's good to see them passing it a bit more as well, instead of being such a run-heavy team. But maybe that was just due to Herbert being a little bit injured. So hopefully moving forward, it's just continue to be wheels up.
Now, I know I've been a glass half full sort of guy for the episode. I'm going to go glass half empty in this one. Now, I know J.K. Dobbins had his 2 touchdowns really good, but 11 carries to 6 in favour of him versus Gus Edwards. Is there any concern there? I thought Gus was okay, but also Gus Edwards surprisingly hasn't had any touchdowns this year, which just blows my mind. Do we think that this might end up being a 50-50 split and they try and keep J.K. Dobbins fresh and injury-free for maybe a potential playoff run? Or do we think that this is going to be like a 80-20 split?
I think it's probably going to be more closer to a 50-50. Gus Edwards, he had that injury. He's been slowly being worked back in, and Dobbins is just not. Besides this game, he had 11 for 56, but a lot of that came with that large run at the end for 29 yards to seal the deal. Besides that, he would have been looking at 11 for 27, which would have been gross as. He just hasn't been as efficient. To put it simply, he looked really good at the start of the year with Gus Edwards back. If you can, like I said earlier, if your trade deadline hasn't hit yet, here's another player that I'd be trying to move.
And he's held high on J.K. Dobbins too.
Yeah, you can, especially coming off that 2 touchdown performance. That definitely saved his week. Sell high if you can. Absolutely.
Now, in a local dynasty league that I've got here, we call Quinton Johnston huge.
Huge, yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that's standard or not, but we just call him huge. But he's looking like he's starting to mesh this offense. Only had 2 catches, but another touchdown to go along with it. He looks like he can score a touchdown every week now. Yeah,
he's a big play guy. I think for Herbert, he's slotting into that role that Michael Williams was in for the previous years, and he looks okay. And I think that coaching change just has done him the world of good, because he looked horrid last year. Had a heap of drops, but his hands have been pretty solid this year. Even though he had 8 targets in this game, I know a lot of them were throwaways in his direction. But he's looked good. Always good for a big play. Definitely a touchdown threat. Brighter things ahead for sure.
On the Bengals side of things, mate, it was, yes, they lost the game. Yep, completely understand. But Joe Burrow, big game. Chase Brown, big game. T. Higgins, big game. Jamar Chase, big game. And these are like the 4 options the Bengals have in fantasy that are worth starting. And each and every week when all these guys play, they just ball out. Even T. Higgins, man, with Jamar Chase, it's still fine because he can do this sort of crap where he goes for 9 for 148 and a touchdown. This is probably one of my funnest teams to watch fantasy-wise, because when you start someone, you're going to get some big results out of them.
Yeah, for sure. They're all studs. When Higgins is healthy and in the offense, it's definitely been lifting up Jamar Chase as well. Because in some of the games without Higgins, Chase is like doubled and triple teamed, and he can't really do too much.
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to watch these games. The Bengals, yeah, Joey B has been on an absolute tear. I think he's been playing as a top 3 quarterback this year, and
Yeah.
it's just a real shame, especially in this game, that others around him let him down. Like Evan McPherson missed 2 field goals in the death that would have sealed the game for these guys, and it's just they can't do anything else. He's doing it all.
And I'm glad you said that about Joe Burrow too, because they're sitting at 4-7 at the moment. If that was 7-4, he'd be in MVP contention.
Oh,
He's having an
absolutely.
outstanding season, but unfortunately, winning's a big part in the NFL. So if you're not winning games, you're not the MVP. So I
Yeah,
don't mind that. I don't mind that.
yeah,
Let's go.
sorry, maybe just to jump in there, just to add in rest of season for the Bengals. How do you kind of see them looking fantasy wise? Because you'd hate to think they probably have to win out here to be a chance at the playoffs. They've got I think they've got a couple of tough games. I think they versus Steelers twice. They're probably the 2 hardest ones, but for them to be any chance of the playoffs, you'd have to think that they win out from here. And if they don't, is that going to make a hit for the fantasy players?
They're going to have to go pretty much nearly perfect from here on out, as you said. I will say though, mate, they've got a really, really tough schedule for the remainder of the year. By next week, so that's a tough game because you're getting a guaranteed donut. But Pittsburgh the week after that, tough matchup. Cowboys, it's not looking like it's going to be that bad. So that'll be a nice one. Titans, a little bit hard. Cleveland should be all right. Denver to finish off with in the championship round. So it's a tough end of season schedule for the Bengals. Yeah, we'll see how they go. Jamar Chase will probably see Satan that championship round. So, yeah, tough. Let's move on to the last game of the round, mate. My Cowboys, they stink. I'm happy just to get rid of them for the remainder of the year. But, they got smashed 34-10 to the Texans. The Texans only really came out late and won the game. It was pretty close for the majority of it, as in like 1 score difference for the majority of it. And then the Texans sort of flexed their muscles at the end. But Joe Mixon was probably the one we're going to mention the most. A 3-touchdown day, 109 yards, looked awesome. Scored majority of his points early and then had a touchdown late in that last quarter too to really end it off. But Joe Mixon, mate, I must admit, I was one guy who was just trying to stay away from him. I thought this would be a real pass-heavy offense, but Joe Mixon's one of those safe options where he's been balling out all year, really.
Yeah, they've been giving him everything too. He just keeps getting all this volume. Probably he had 20 carries in this game, and that was probably his lowest in the last 5 weeks. Yeah. He's been up in those mid-20s. But yeah, he's just doing it all. And against the Cowboys rush defense, that's been pretty dismal. Sorry to say that, Maverick, but it's been people have been able to run on these guys all year long, and this game was no different.
Absolutely, mate. Bit disappointed with Nico Collins had that 70-yard touchdown to start the game, pretty much. But Laramie Tunsil had that holding penalty, brought it back. If guys were hoping that Nico Collins was going to go off in that to win the matchups, they'd be disappointed because that was a good, maybe 14 points there on the table gone. But yeah, all in all, mate, CJ Stroud for no passing touchdowns again, another flop.
Yeah, and you think this isn't the first week that it's happened. It's been pretty consistent that CJ hasn't been performing. Setting that aside, Nico Collins, this is only his first game back, so you think that maybe they were just working him in this offense a little bit more, and you can hope to see CJ cash in on a few more touchdowns with his partner in crime back. It's not great for CJ Stroud. A lot of people drafted him early in drafts in the off season, and his O-line, I don't want to make excuses for him, but his O-line's been pretty banged up as well. But this was a game where they've had everyone on all cylinders in that O-line, and no passing touchdowns, which was pretty disappointing.
I've been so critical on CJ Stroud all year, mate. He's had 2 top 10 finishes at his position all year. The last 5 weeks, QB 29, QB 26, QB 24, QB 18, and then QB 25 this week. So, mate, that's putting it in like Derek Carr category. So, probably Derek Carr's been outperforming, to be fair. That could be Danny Dimes territory. But, pretty yuck, to be honest with you. On the Cowboy side of things, mate, there wasn't really much to like here. Rico Dowdle was the lead back, but 10 carries, 28 yards. Yuck. Yeah. CD Lamb, 8 for 93. So he was a positive. He looked really pissed off on the bench when they lost, and he was sitting there pretty wanting to kill someone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but all in all, mate, CD Lamb looks like he may be QB proof. Possibly, we'll soon find out next few weeks. But yeah, all in all, pretty disgusting game for the Cowboys. I thought like there's only really one option there, and that you'd want to start, and that's CD Lamb. Jake Ferguson did get injured in that first quarter with that concussion, ruled out early. We'll probably miss next week, you'd imagine, with a concussion, or 50-50 chance anyway. But that makes the offense even worse.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And CD, if you're a manager of CD Lamb, you'd be happy with this week. You know, after last week, I think he had like 6 for 20 or something dismal like that. But you know, just looking at Cooper Rush, he threw the ball 55 times in this game. So you know, even looking at that, 55 times, 12 targets for CD. Yeah, it's pretty gross. You know, but yeah, definitely happy to see him get 8 grabs for 90 odd yards there. But yeah, they couldn't really get much else going. Rico Dowdle, there was talks of him being involved a bit more. He did get a bit more work, but just against this defense, they would have been loading the box up with Cooper Rush under center, so he couldn't really get too much going for him.
That's right, mate. And you know, if I'm a CD Lamb owner, which I am in a dynasty league, I hold him and say, "Yep, I'm just going to see what happens for the remainder of the year." But in a redraft, would you look to sell high?
Oh, it's tough, honestly, because the CD is just one of those game breakers where, like, you know, he had 8 for 93 with Cooper Rush, but with that moving forward,
for the year.
You'll see him for the year. You won't feel good about starting him week in, week out, because you know the downsides that can happen with Cooper Rush under center. And then even worse, if they were to switch to Trey Lance, that would just be an absolute dumpster fire. Yeah, potentially, honestly, save yourself the headache, sell high on CD Lamb.
Yeah, I don't disagree, mate. I don't disagree. Yeah, don't disagree at all. All right, mate. I reckon that'll pretty much do us. Thanks for joining me in the box tonight, mate. It's always been a pleasure. Ramondre Stevenson is still available if you're interested. Always, the offer's always there, mate. Whenever you're keen, just flick over a first. He's there. So, thanks for joining me, mate. I definitely appreciate it. It's been great. Knowledge is top notch. And yeah, had a blast, mate. So appreciate you jumping in.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Maverick. Yeah, no, it's great to talk a bit of shop with you. You know, fantasy football, that's what we love. This is the best season of the year. And in terms of Ramondre Stevenson, yeah, that price has got to come down. Yeah,
we'll see. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. See you Thursday night for a week 12 preview. Cheers.
Cool. See you guys.
We think it amazing.